Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again, and I want to take a little time at least to discuss a further point that our Australian super right-winger has put in his infamous manifesto. And that is, of course, the problem of birth rates in Western or Westernized countries. And yeah, it's a very, very short bullet point-like statement that he put in there, and that was, even if we get the foreigners, the migrants out of our countries, we still have a low birth rate. Of course, everyone knows that. In many countries, industrialized countries, for example, the birth rates are very low, so below reproduction level. And this is why the owner class, the industrialists, the globalists, they want more migration to keep real estate prices, for example, up, but also to ensure that the labor costs per capita, so to speak, so the wages stay low. Yeah, they want to increase pressure on the labor market to enjoy the benefits of a first world nation combined with low or relatively low wages. Of course, from their perspective, this makes perfect sense. From a capitalist perspective, that is. But the question remains for patriots, for nationalists, to tackle this issue. What to do with all these low birth rates? Well, the first step, as always, would be to diagnose the problem, of course. And what does he do? He says, well, the problem is just very complex. And let me just say, we need to go back to classical, traditional gender roles. Yeah, but whenever you hear someone saying something like this, it should at least make you suspicious. I mean, to say that a topic is very complex or maybe too complex to discuss here at length, that is not always BS. Sometimes topics are complex, and sometimes it would be taking away from the real topic of discussion, a digression or something. But for this manifesto, when he says it's the birth rates, it's the birth rates, it's the birth rates, I think this topic is not taking us away from the actual problem, but it is, well, at least a big part of the actual problem, right? And the thing is, if you are really red-pilled about this, and not a blue pillar like this guy is in this aspect at least, in this set of problems at least, then you would know that the problem is maybe hard to deal with, very hard to tackle, but it's not complex, okay? It's easy to understand why we have low birth rates. Even the UN understands that perfectly well. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that. It is just, as with many topics, very hard to turn this trend around. So, without further ado, here the reason why we have low birth rates in many countries in the world. And that is, women have access very easily to top-notch education, and a pathway is open for them to make it in the professional world, to get a career. And of course, what do women do when you ask them, or when they're in their 20s and some nice guy asks them to settle down and have a family? Yeah, it's of course partly hypergamy. They are not ready yet to cash in their chips. Yeah, they're like in the casino and they're gambling on and on and on because they think that 5 minutes before the casino closes, they can get that super big win. Yeah, and the other thing is, I have been among career women or professional women, highly educated women all my life, because this is the social group I'm in, right? And I can tell you that until their mid-30s, it is like, I don't know, a child on a flat rate party in a candy store. So everything in the educational world and in the workplace, everyone is bending over backwards to promote women, to make things as easy as possible for them, to praise them and promote them, and new positions are just created in order to get a female into the department. Yeah? It's crazy. Yeah? And then the corporation invests a lot in them, the country invests a lot in them, and then when they're 30, 35, when they're seniors, so to speak, then people expect them to start delivering, you know? And many of them don't, because all of a sudden they feel like they're not valued anymore like they used to be valued. Well, the reality is that then they're treated like a normal employee, and well, maybe not normal, but at least they're expected to deliver, you know? And then it's not fun anymore, and all of a sudden when they're 38 or 35 or something, then they want to have a child, yeah? Then they want to have a kid and settle down, because that is their exit strategy from the workplace. And they don't want, I said that 1,000 times before, they don't want, or many of them don't want to actually work until they're 70, yeah? They want to get out of the workplace, out of the treadmill, yeah? And that is the problem. But then they burn through their fertility windows. And that is the only reason, or at least the major reason. And even the UN knows that. When the UN wants to tackle overpopulation, what do? They say officially in their statements, oh, let's give women access to education and to the job market, and you will see they will have less children. Highly educated women have no or very few children. Yeah? And this is what's happening. And this is, of course, uncomfortable for these nationalists to talk about. But it's just so refreshing when you read this manifesto. Like, he has no problems talking like really badly about other groups, and he is so eager to just, you know, assign blame here and there. But and you know, I'm not even blaming women. I mean, from their perspective, it makes total sense to play that game. Yeah? It's just the system we set up for them that leads them to behave in that way. Very simple, very simple. But for these right-wingers, it's so uncomfortable and so impossible, it seems, to talk openly about the reason why we have lower birth rates. And in a way, he's not lying. I mean, or in a way, he has the right ideas. If you want to be very, very, if you want to be very lenient in your assessment with his manifesto, he says we have to go back to traditional gender roles. I mean, if that gender role means, this traditional gender role he talks about, if that means women shouldn't be educated and have a lot of kids, yeah, then in a way he's not lying. But I very much doubt if you would try to nail him down on that point, he would say, yeah, women shouldn't go to college, women shouldn't get full-time jobs. Yeah, that's what I meant with that. I don't think he means that, yeah? And, you know, it's uncomfortable to talk about these things. It is absolutely impossible to say that in a public discussion or for some political party to advocate this stuff. Absolutely impossible. And what Hungary is doing right now, just giving young families a lot of money, yeah, this will help to a certain degree, but someone has to come up with that money in the first place. And if a woman really is drunk on hypergamy and feels like a princess at the workplace and everything is exciting and she meets nice men in suits and goes to cocktail parties, I don't think some welfare ramp up will make her reconsider. Yeah? So a certain group of women or young families you might reach with that program, yeah, but you won't get the birth rate significantly up. You must just look at the countries that have high birth rates and compare their situation when it comes to female healthcare, education prospects and job and career prospects. Just compare them to us and then you will see a pattern. Yeah, it's very easy. Okay, so that was the not so complex reason why we have low birth rates in the West, and the very, very hard, if even impossible, solution to that problem. Because how do you want to really turn this around? I mean, I don't see any political solution to get women back into the kitchen and back into the home and having 4 children or something. I just don't see it. Yeah? But nevertheless, we shouldn't lie to ourselves as to why we are in this predicament and why our ruling class wants to stock up the ranks, or even, if you want to go that far, replace us with other population groups from all around the world. I mean, they could pay us higher wages, but they don't want that. Yeah, they want relatively low-skilled workers, or at least they want us to compete with them and thereby depress our wages. That's what's going on. And they need consumers. If you just look at the German housing market, you can see the impact of the intake of migrants. You can see that very, very clearly in the housing prices and the general level of the rents in many cities that you have to pay in order to rent an apartment or a house. More pressure on the working class, more pressure on the middle class, and another way to look at it is industrialization and the invention of men. The inventions of men have freed up a lot of potential in the Western world. And what did we do with that power, with this potential? Did we go to Mars? Did we industrialize the asteroid belt? No, we bent over backwards in order to put some females in the workplace who then stopped having children and thereby endangered the survival of our group. Yay, yay, white man for the win. Okay, so a little bit of sarcasm at the end. I just, when you follow this thing for 20 years, at some point you cannot be angry and hot-headed about it anymore. So my rage phase was probably 15 years ago about these topics. So forgive me if I'm not, if I seem to be a little bit distant or a little bit disaffected when it comes to these things. I'm not, but my emotional response just isn't there anymore, okay? So with this, I leave you for today. I hope wherever you are, you have a great day. And maybe when someone says something is too complex, don't say it's BS right away, but think about it. Is it really that complex, or is it just uncomfortable for that person, right? It's at least a red flag. All right, Servus, Kameraden.